The biggest mistakes in human history. For thousands of years, humanity has achieved incredible things. We built cities, crossed oceans, landed on the moon, and created technologies that once seemed impossible. Yet history has also been shaped by terrible mistakes, decisions that changed the world forever. Some cost millions of lives. Others damaged the planet, destroyed civilizations, or slowed human progress for centuries. Here are some of the biggest mistakes humanity has ever made. 1. Starting wars instead of solving conflicts. Perhaps the greatest mistake in human history has been choosing war over peace. Throughout history, countless conflicts have devastated entire civilizations. But no wars were more destructive than World War I and World War E. Together, they caused the deaths of more than 80 million people. Entire cities disappeared. Families were torn apart, economies collapsed, and millions of innocent civilians suffered unimaginable horrors. Wars have also led to famine, disease, refugee crises, and decades of political instability. Even today, many regions continue to experience the consequences of conflicts that ended generations ago. History repeatedly shows that wars rarely create lasting solutions. Instead, they often create new problems that last for decades or even centuries. 2. Destroying nature for short-term profit. Humans have transformed Earth more than any other species. Forests that took thousands of years to grow have disappeared within decades. Rivers have become polluted. Wildlife populations have collapsed. Thousands of species have gone extinct because of habitat destruction, pollution, hunting, and climate change. The Industrial Revolution improved millions of lives, but also accelerated pollution on a global scale. Burning fossil fuels filled the atmosphere with greenhouse gases, contributing to rising temperatures, melting glaciers, stronger storms, droughts, and rising sea levels. Scientists estimate that Earth is currently experiencing one of the largest extinction events since the dinosaurs disappeared 66 million years ago. Protecting nature is no longer just about saving animals, it's about protecting humanity's own future. 3. Slavery. For thousands of years, millions of people were treated not as human beings, but as property. Entire civilizations depended on forced labor. Families were separated forever. People lost their freedom, culture, and identity simply because of where they were born or the color of their skin. The transatlantic slave trade alone transported millions of Africans across the ocean under horrific conditions. Many never survived the journey. Although slavery has been outlawed in most countries, modern forms of forced labor and human trafficking still affect millions of people today. One of humanity's greatest lessons is that every person deserves equal rights, freedom, and dignity. 4. Ignoring deadly diseases. Throughout history, diseases have killed more people than many wars combined. The Black Death wiped out nearly 1/3 of Europe's population in the 14th century. Smallpox devastated entire civilizations. The 1918 influenza pandemic infected hundreds of millions of people worldwide. Often, outbreaks became much worse because societies ignored scientific knowledge, spread misinformation, or delayed action. Modern medicine has saved billions of lives through vaccines, antibiotics, and improved healthcare. But history reminds us that preparation and science are essential for protecting humanity. 5. Using nuclear weapons. In 1945, the world entered a completely new era. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki demonstrated that humanity had created a weapon powerful enough to destroy entire cities within seconds. Hundreds of thousands of people died from the explosions and their long-term effects. Since then, nations have built thousands of nuclear weapons, enough to threaten civilization many times over. The existence of nuclear weapons remains one of humanity's greatest responsibilities. One mistake could have catastrophic consequences for the entire planet. 6. Spreading hatred and discrimination. Throughout history, prejudice has divided societies. People have been persecuted because of their race, religion, nationality, language, or beliefs. Entire communities have faced discrimination, violence, and genocide simply because they were different. History shows that fear and hatred often begin with small acts of intolerance before growing into much larger tragedies. The lesson is simple. Diversity makes societies stronger, not weaker. 7. Ignoring science. Many important discoveries were rejected when they first appeared. Scientists, such as Galileo, challenged accepted beliefs and faced punishment for presenting evidence. Medical pioneers struggled to convince others that washing hands could save lives. New technologies were often dismissed because they challenged tradition. When societies reject evidence and critical thinking, progress slows dramatically. Nearly every modern convenience from electricity to space exploration exists because someone chose to follow evidence instead of fear. 8. Overusing Earth's resources. Humanity consumes enormous amounts of natural resources every year. Freshwater supplies are shrinking in many regions. Oceans are becoming polluted with plastic. Valuable minerals are extracted faster than they can be replaced. Food waste reaches astonishing levels while millions of people still suffer from hunger. Experts warn that sustainable development is essential if future generations are to enjoy the same opportunities we have today. The choices made during this century will determine the condition of our planet for hundreds of years. 9. Believing misinformation. False information has existed for centuries, but the internet allows it to spread faster than ever before. Rumors, conspiracy theories, and fake news can influence elections, create panic, damage reputations, and even endanger lives. Learning how to verify information and think critically has become one of the most important skills of the modern age. Knowledge is powerful, but only when it is accurate. 10. Forgetting the lessons of history. Perhaps humanity's greatest mistake is repeating the mistakes of the past. Again and again, societies ignore warning signs. Economic crises repeat. Political extremism returns. Wars begin for familiar reasons. Environmental damage continues despite decades of scientific warnings. History is often described as humanity's greatest teacher, but only for those willing to learn from it. Conclusion: despite all of these mistakes, humanity has also shown an extraordinary ability to learn, adapt, and improve. We abolished many forms of slavery, developed life-saving medicines, explored space, connected the world through technology, and dramatically improved living standards for billions of people. The future depends on whether we remember the lessons of history. Every generation has a choice: repeat the mistakes of the past or build a better world. The biggest mistake humanity could make is believing that history cannot happen again. Because history is not just about the past, it is a guide to the future.